Now, you've probably never heard of Hans Island. I know I hadn't, but ownership of this barren outcrop in the Nares Strait has been hotly disputed for more than 40 years. The island sits between Canada's Ellesmere Island and Greenland. Denmark claims it as its own, but so too does Canada. The actual sovereignty of Hans Island remains unresolved. So the crews of passing ships have been battling it out amongst themselves. Visiting Danes leave their flag and bottles of schnapps. The Canadians replace that with their own flag and some rye whiskey. It's being described as the world's politest dispute, but it could all soon be over. Well, Martin Breum is a journalist specialising in Arctic affairs. He recently visited Hans Island and joins me now from Copenhagen. Sarah Frizzell is a reporter with CBC North and she joins us now from Iqaluit in Canada. Welcome to you both. Good to have you both with us on BBC World News. Martin, let's start with you because you've been to the island. What's it like?
It's extremely remote. It's very, very desolate. It's certainly not a place you want to get stuck. When I was there a couple of weeks back, it was all squeezed in by sea ice. It was icy all over. It's a very steep piece of rock. It's only 1.3 kilometers, square kilometers wide, and the cliffs are very steep. There are no real landing for a vessel of any sorts. We got there by helicopter. And the flagpoles, of course, now stand empty. There are no flags there. There's basically no vegetation. It's been sort of blown off. It's lifeless. It's a very, very odd place to be. You feel very, very isolated. It's several hours of flight from any living human beings. There might be, traces of animals around on the ice, on the sea ice, but apart from that, it's a completely dead place.
Sarah, it doesn't sound like much to write home about. Why are Canada so attached to it?
I think we just generally define ourselves as an Arctic nation, and we kind of like this idea of the friendly diplomacy. It kind of speaks to who we think we are. So I think that's about it. But I would say generally Canadians are not as aware of the island as they could be. If you ask someone walking down the street in Toronto, they're probably not going to know where Hans Island is either.
So, Martin, why the row over this? Have either government really got a claim over it, either country?
Well, they are certainly discussing this. They've been battling this for 45 years now, and there's recently been a decision by both governments to set down, establish another committee to look at it. Diplomats will meet once again to talk over who owns this piece of land. And they, of course, claim once again that they will soon find a solution. And this time around, the Greenlanders are also involved. But there's no reason really to believe why they would find a solution this time around, because nothing has happened. There's a weather station up there now, some electronics sitting there that they put up in joint efforts. But I haven't heard anything that should indicate that there is any news. Nobody in the governments have indicated that they're willing to sort of let go of their half of the island or the whole of the island. So there might be another round of negotiations coming up, but whether that will be successful, well, there's no indications why that would happen, really.
Sarah, is there anything there that's useful to either country that they can say, well, we want it because of this?
No, I mean, in the 80s, there was a little bit of exploration by a petroleum company, but right now the Canadian government is maintaining there's not much there. We're just in the process of finally submitting our seabed lines for UNCLOS, and so maybe there'll be a little bit more to come out of that. That's expected sometime this year, but really, as Martin was saying, there's not much up there.
Yeah. Martin, do Danish people really care about this? Sarah was saying in Canada, if you talk to the average Canadian, they're not really even going to know about its existence.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, I think, in Denmark. Of course, the people here where I am in Copenhagen, they wouldn't know a clue. They wouldn't have a clue what we're talking about. But the people in Greenland, of course, they're Inuit. So they have a somewhat different feeling about this island. They think it belongs to the Inuits of the north. That means the people in Nunavut in Canada, as well as the people in Greenland. There have been suggestions for sort of a sovereignty solving issue here, that you could possibly give the island to the Inuit of Greenland and Nunavut in a joint regime. The idea here is, of course, that there is nothing really to get at at Hans Island, but the surrounding areas are hunting grounds for the Inuit in that part of the world. There are not many Inuit up there, but those who live in that part of the world, they might go hunting there.
Martin, I'm so sorry, we must leave it there. We are out of time. Martin Breum.